Welcome back to Beyond the Unknown.
I'm Olivia Reyes.
I'm Alex Carter, and for episode 5.
Episode 5 already.
Yeah, can you believe it?
Time flies when you're exploring the unknown, right?
It really does. So for this episode, we are diving into...
A deep dive.
Yes, a deep dive into one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century.
Roswell.
Roswell.
Just the name.
It conjures up images.
Of crashed flying saucers.
Government cover-ups.
The works.
It's amazing how this one event has just captivated the public imagination for decades now.
Isn't it wild?
So today, we're going to be going over a really interesting report that breaks down the entire incident.
All the detail.
The impact, and of course, all those lingering questions.
Because there are always more questions than answers with Roswell.
Always more questions than answers. So let's set the scene.
Okay.
It's 1947.
1947, what a time to be alive.
What was the world like back then?
Well, World War II was over, but the Cold War was just heating up.
Ah, so that tension
time.
between the United States and the Soviet Union.
You got a constant tension, everyone on edge about nuclear weapons and the threat of espionage.
So basically, it was a pretty paranoid time, huh?
Extremely paranoid. You know, with everything going on, it's no wonder people were seeing things in the sky and jumping to conclusions.
And I mean, we had all these incredible advancements in technology.
Oh, yeah. Technology was evolving at an unprecedented pace, especially when it came to aviation and radar.
We're talking about breakthroughs in aircraft design, high-altitude balloons for surveillance.
Exactly. All this new tech made the idea of flying discs seem a lot more believable than it might have just a few years earlier.
Like anything was possible.
Right, and then just a few weeks before Roswell, there was this pivotal event.
Okay.
Pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 unusual objects flying near Mount Rainier.
I've heard about this. Wasn't it described as moving like saucers, skipping on water?
That's the one, and that's actually where we get the term flying saucer from.
Really?
Arnold's sighting really fueled public fascination with UFOs.
So by the time Roswell happened, people were primed and ready to believe. Wow, so the whole flying saucer thing started with one pilot sighting.
It did. The world was captivated, and that set the stage for Roswell.
All right, let's talk about the incident itself.
Let's do it.
Our report takes us to early July 1947,
Okay.
where we meet rancher Mac Brazel.
Mac Brazel just going about his business on his ranch near Corona, New Mexico.
Corona, New Mexico.
When he finds something strange in his sheep pasture?
Strange how?
Well, it was right after a thunderstorm, and he found debris scattered all over the place.
Debris? Like what?
It was weird stuff, metallic foil-like material sticks that looked like balsa wood, odd pieces of rubber.
Things that he had never seen before.
Exactly. And remember, this is just weeks after the whole flying saucer craze hits the headlines.
Oh, wow. So the timing.
Couldn't be more perfect.
Right.
So when Brazel sees this debris, he can't help but think it's something otherworldly.
I mean, I would too. So what did he do? Did he just leave it there?
Not a chance. He was too curious, so he gathers it up and heads into Roswell to report what he found.
Where'd he go? The police.
He went straight to the sheriff's office.
Makes sense.
But even they weren't sure what to make of it.
I bet.
But word got around, and eventually it reached the Roswell Army Airfield.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
You can imagine what happened next.
I think I can be the military got involved.
That's right. The RAAF, they sent personnel out to the ranch to investigate, and they took that debris back to the base with them.
And were they quiet about this, or was it like a public thing?
Well, at first they were surprisingly open about it.
Really?
In fact, on July 8th, 1947, the Roswell Army Airfield, they issued a press release.
A press release.
That sent shockwaves across the country.
What did it say?
They announced that they had recovered a flying disc.
Wow. Hold on. They said that publicly. A flying disc?
That's what they said.
That must have been front page news everywhere.
Oh, it was huge. Roswell was suddenly the center of attention, and the whole world was buzzing about UFOs.
So the military, they're basically confirming that they have something that could be a UFO.
It certainly seemed that way. At least that's how a lot of people interpreted it.
But
There's always a but then. With Roswell,
I have a feeling things are about to take a turn.
you could say that.
What happened?
Later that same day, the military completely changed their story.
Really? They retracted the flying disc announcement.
They sure did. General Roger Romey, who was a big deal in the 8th Air Force, he stepped in,
Okay.
held a press conference, and this time they were singing a very different tune.
What were they saying now?
Romey claimed that the whole flying disc thing was a big misunderstanding.
Misunderstanding.
Yeah, right.
So what was the new explanation?
Get this, they said it was just a weather balloon.
A weather balloon. Seriously.
I know, right? It's almost laughable now.
They really thought people would buy that.
Well, they even had Major Jesse Marcel.
Who was that?
He was involved in the initial recovery. They had him pose for a photo op, holding some of the debris to make it look like ordinary stuff.
Like stuff you'd find in a weather balloon.
Exactly, some rubber foil sticks, the usual.
But what about all the descriptions of the debris being really unusual?
That's the thing. The initial reports described something far more strange, and that's what made their retraction so suspicious.
People were already skeptical of the government, and this flip-flop just fueled that fire.
Absolutely. It just seemed like a classic cover-up, and the whole stage photo thing with Marcel.
Made it even worse.
Totally orchestrated.
So we've got the discovery, the shocking flying disc announcement, and then this quick and unconvincing retraction.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, the Roswell incident sort of disappeared from the headlines for a while, but the questions never really went away, and as the years passed, more details emerged, and that mystery only deepened.
And that is where things get really interesting.
You could say that.
I can't wait to hear more about it.
Buckle up, we're just getting started. Our report dives into some of the theories that have been put forward to explain the Roswell incident.
Okay, like what?
Well, one of the most common is this thing called Project Mogul.
Project Mogul. Does that sound familiar?
Maybe it was a top-secret military operation during the Cold War.
Okay.
They were using high-altitude balloons.
Balloons? For what?
To monitor Soviet nuclear tests.
So they had these spy balloons up in the air trying to listen in on the Soviets.
Pretty much. And these weren't your average party balloons either. We're talking massive things made from unusual materials.
Like what?
Foil rubber, all kinds of components that if you didn't know what you were looking at...
You might think it was something else.
Exactly. Something more exotic.
Okay, so maybe what Brazil found was debris from one of these Project Mogul balloons?
That's what some people believe.
And that would explain why the military was so quick to change their story, right?
Makes sense, doesn't it? They couldn't exactly reveal a top-secret operation, so they had to come up with a cover story.
And the weather balloon was the best they could do.
It was plausible enough, I guess.
But what about all the other stuff? The witnesses who claim to see alien bodies, the stories about government cover-ups.
That's the thing about Roswell.
What is it?
There's the official explanation, and then there's this whole other layer of mystery that just won't go away.
Like what?
Our report digs into those aspects as well.
Okay, good. Let's hear about that. Where do we even begin with all of that?
Well, the Roswell incident might have just faded from memory if it weren't for a key figure.
Oh.
Major Jesse Marcel.
Wait, Marcel? The guy from those photos with the weather balloon debris?
The one and only.
But I thought he went along with the official story.
He did at the time. But get this, in 1978, Marcel decided to break his silence.
Really? After all those years? What happened?
He came forward and claimed that what he'd actually seen back in '47 at Roswell was not from this Earth.
Whoa, hold on. He's basically saying it was a UFO.
That's exactly how people took it.
And I bet that reignited public interest in the Roswell incident.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like opening a floodgate. Suddenly you had all these other witnesses, both military and civilian, coming forward with their own stories.
Wow. Did any of these new accounts back up what Marcel was saying?
Some did, but there's a catch, of course. A lot of these accounts had inconsistencies and conflicting details.
Well, it makes sense, I guess. We're talking about events that happened decades earlier.
Yeah.
Memories aren't always the most reliable things.
Exactly. Plus, as our report highlights, some of the witnesses' credibility was questionable, and sometimes memories get distorted over time, especially with something as sensational as this.
So it's a mixed bag with these witness testimonies.
It is.
Some might be credible, some not so much.
You gotta take it all with a grain of salt.
But I'm guessing even with those flaws, they still added to the mystique surrounding Roswell.
Oh, without a doubt. They became part of the Roswell legend. And there's this one detail that really stands out in some of these accounts. The memory metal idea.
Memory metal?
Yep.
What in the world is that?
So picture this. A few of the witnesses talked about this strange metal that could somehow remember its shape. They'd say you could bend it, crumple it up, whatever, and it would just spring right back to its original form, totally undamaged.
Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right? Is it even a real thing?
Yeah. Is it?
Well, it might be. Researchers think what some of those Roswell witnesses described could have been an early form of a nickel-titanium alloy, which we know today as nitinol.
Nitinol. I'm going to need you to break that down for me.
Yeah.
What is nitinol and how does it connect to memory metal?
Nitinol is pretty amazing stuff. It's a shape memory alloy, meaning it can be deformed at a certain temperature, but when you heat it up, it'll snap right back to its original shape as if it remembers where it's supposed to be.
Okay, now that's just cool.
It is.
So maybe what those witnesses saw as this mysterious memory metal was actually nitinol. That would make their stories a little more believable, wouldn't it?
It would. But here's where it gets tricky. Nitinol wasn't something that was widely available back in 1947. It was developed later. So if that debris was nitinol, it just raises more questions than it
Yeah,
answers.
like how in the world did it get there? That's a head scratcher for sure.
Yeah,
Because like every time we get close to an explanation, we just hit another wall.
it's true. The Roswell incident is full of these tantalizing clues, things that hint at something extraordinary, but they don't quite fit together neatly.
Like a puzzle with some pieces missing.
Exactly.
So I've got Project Mogul, which could maybe explain the debris. Then we've got these witness accounts, some shaky, but some describing things that sound pretty impossible. And now this memory metal mystery. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but Roswell doesn't stop there. Our report also dives into a whole other level of intrigue. The accounts of people claiming to have seen not just debris, but alien bodies.
All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. Tell me everything. What did these witnesses see?
Hold on to your hats, because this is where things are really interesting.
Alien bodies, huh?
Mm.
You said things were about to get interesting. I'm ready.
Well, some of the witnesses who came forward after Marcel, they didn't just talk about debris, they described seeing actual alien bodies recovered from the crash site.
Okay, whoa. So what did these people say they saw? I mean, was it the classic little green men or something else?
Not green, actually. Most of them describe these small, gray beings with large heads and, those big black eyes you always see in movies.
Yeah, it's like that's become the iconic alien look.
Yeah.
And to think it might all go back to Roswell.
It's pretty amazing, right? Our report even talks about how Roswell became this massive cultural phenomenon. I mean, one single event sparked this worldwide fascination with UFOs and the whole idea of life beyond Earth.
It's crazy how much impact one event can have. It's like Roswell just threw open the doors to all these possibilities that maybe people had only dreamed of before.
Totally. And it wasn't just a passing fad either. Roswell gave rise to entire subcultures dedicated to researching UFOs and searching for alien life. It's everywhere you look: books, movies, TV shows, video games.
Roswell's woven into our culture, that's for sure.
Right.
But what about the scientific side of things? Did Roswell have any real impact on actual research and investigation?
It did, although maybe not in the way you'd expect. Roswell kind of forced the scientific world to take UFOs a little more seriously. You saw more research, new investigative techniques were developed, and even if it was still kind of fringe science, you had more scientists who were at least willing to consider the possibility of life beyond Earth.
So it was this cultural touchstone, a bit of a turning point in science, and a source of endless fascination for so many people. It's really incredible to think how much one event back in 1947 has shaped how we think about the unknown.
It really is. And here's the thing. Even today, Roswell still has this hold on us, especially now with all these disclosure movements popping up.
You're talking about those groups that are pushing governments to be more transparent about UFOs and what they believe is evidence of aliens visiting Earth, right?
Exactly. They're kind of building on that legacy of Roswell arguing that governments might be hiding the truth about extraterrestrial contact.
And is there anything to that? I mean, do you think governments are really keeping secrets about aliens?
Well, it's interesting because in recent years, the U.S. government has declassified some reports on what they call unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs.
Yeah, those reports got a lot of attention. It seemed like everyone was talking about them.
For sure. And while they don't outright say, hey, it's aliens, they do admit that there are things we've seen in our skies that we just can't explain with our current understanding of technology.
So in a way, it's like we're back where we started with Roswell. That mystery, those unanswered questions, that feeling of uncertainty, it's all still very much alive.
It really is, and that's what makes the Roswell incident so compelling even after all these years. I think it speaks to something deep within us, And that's what our report ultimately concludes. Roswell, it's not just about a potential UFO crash. It's about our own curiosity as humans. It's about our desire to understand our place in this vast universe and how much we still don't know.
It really makes you realize how much is still out there waiting to be discovered. And it's a good reminder to always question what we think we know, to stay open to possibilities no matter how strange they might seem.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Roswell. It's a story that just keeps giving, Always sparking debate, pushing us to learn more and to keep exploring beyond our own little world.
This deep dive has been incredible, Olivia. We've uncovered so much about Roswell and the impact it's had. But I feel like I have even more questions now than when we started.
That's the beauty of exploring the unknown, right? The more you learn, the more you realize how much more there is to discover.
Absolutely. So to everyone listening out there, we encourage you to keep digging into this. What do you think happened at Roswell? Was it a weather balloon, a secret military experiment, or something truly extraterrestrial? The truth is out there somewhere, and the search for it continues. Until next time, Keep looking up and keep questioning everything.